So first off, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
finishing up the film.
Thank you so much.
It's quite a long journey for you, as we were just saying. Tell me about that.
3.5 years on the movie, but I think worth every month.
Okay, and the reward is the shirt that you're wearing now, I believe. What exactly is that?
This is one of our characters, Orgrim Doomhammer, who's played by Rob Kaczynski. And the arrest plate that's underneath it was actually my dad's when he got arrested as a young man.
Oh, very sweet. Tell me, what is the secret of making a film like Warcraft and adapting from a video game to what we see on screen?
Yeah, I mean, I think there hasn't been a great track record of movies based on video games in the past, and I'm not sure what the exact chemistry is of why it hasn't worked in the past, but what I would say is that there has been a great track record of movies being based on comic books recently. And I think that's because the people now making those movies grew up reading comic books. And in the same way, I grew up playing video games, and I actually grew up playing this particular video game because it's been around for 20 years. As a filmmaker, if I can find a story to tell and characters who will bring the audience in, I think anything can make a great movie. And Warcraft has so many stories.
Okay. And I'm assuming that there's a lot of, beyond the game itself, there were also novels and books, and did you draw from any of that? Or
there's a huge amount of content that Blizzard have incorporated. But to me, the main draw was the games, and in particular the early games, because the very first one, the actual title of it was Orcs and Humans. And by narrowing it down to those two particular cultures, I think we were able to bring an audience on an adventure where the orcs are introduced to this whole new fantasy setting that our film takes place in, and we almost see that world through the orcs' eyes.
Okay. Now, the film is really vast on two fronts. There was the physical production of it,
yes,
and the CG element. And
yes.
Could you just maybe speak to both? What went into
every department on this film is vast.
Okay.
We decided early on that the only way we were going to be able to make this film work, because of the way I'd written the script, where we were going to spend so much time with the orcs, is that we had to be able to hold a close-up on an orc and have them communicate in a way that you would want a human actor, an actor, live-action actor to communicate. They had to be able to emote, you had to be able to capture all the nuances. When we went to ILM, who did our special effects, and they showed us what their state-of-the-art technology was for motion capture, for facial motion capture, we felt confident that we would be able to do that.
Does this film push the envelope in terms of effects, and if so, how?
Absolutely, and
Okay,
I think
yeah.
it is all about the level of detail and the nuance of what the actor does, the motion capture actors do, whether it was Toby Kebbell or Rob Kaczynski or Anna Galvin or Clancy Brown, Daniel Wu. All of these actors, everything they did, every nuance of their performance was being captured so that we could hold a close-up.
What would you say was the biggest challenge for you making it? Was it the sheer scale of it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the scale of the story. That actually structurally, it's actually quite complex as a piece of storytelling.
Yeah.
We are telling a war story, and we're telling it from both sides, and both sides have main protagonists who are heroes. That's not usual for any kind of film, let alone a fantasy film. Normally in a fantasy film, you look at the Lord of the Rings, you've got your humans on this side over here, or humans and hobbits on this side, the cute ones on this side, and then you've got the creatures and the monsters who are the bad guys over here, and it's pretty obvious these guys are going to beat these guys, and that's the end of the movie. With Warcraft, it's much more complex, and there's a lot more juggling going on, because really it's about the choices that our characters make. That's what defines whether they're good or evil.
Okay. Tell me a bit about the human or the orc element, if you will, of both. Is that an important component to the story?
Yeah, massively. I mean, I think for multiple reasons. One of which this fantasy setting that this film takes place in, we're really seeing through their eyes. They're the visitors. They're the ones who've just turned up and seeing this world Azeroth that the story takes place in. But one of the things I wanted to do with the story was to give them a real humanity. So Duratan, our lead, is married to this character Draka, a woman who's pregnant. So he cares about his family. He's chieftain of a tribe. He's responsible for that tribe. So we really kind of get a chance to empathize and get on his side from early on.
What's it like for you when you see one of the first sequences kind of cut together with all the effects come in? Is that the point where you start to breathe easier and relax? Or
if I had to wait for that, I would have really been in trouble, because the process is so long. and there are so many visual effects involved in different ways in this movie. I think, I think the important thing is literally on the shoot, on the shoot itself, working with the actors. If I feel confident that the actors feel comfortable in who their character is and what their character's motivations are, and I can see the performances, even without the effects, I start to feel a confidence that, ILM are wonderful at their job. They're going to deliver on their side of things. As long as I can get the performances from my actors, then we're going to be okay.
What would you say is the future of Warcraft? And I'm assuming we're setting this up for a franchise.
Hey, I would love that to be the case. There's certainly plenty of stories to tell. Chris Metzen from Blizzard and myself have talked a little bit about what a trilogy could be, an initial trilogy. I would love to be involved in that. I would love to do that first trilogy. There is absolutely a story to tell.
Okay. Anything we can look forward to in terms of the extras on the DVD?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Lots and lots of stuff. Beyond the obvious sort of making of types of content, there are large numbers of scenes that were great in their own right, but just weren't the direct storytelling that we wanted. So they kind of just give you a little bit more expansion on things that we're working on. There's lots of Easter eggs for those who are fans of Warcraft itself. No, it should be a lot of good content on that.
Okay. What kind of film are we in store for?
Well, what I'd say is I did 2 science fiction films before I did Warcraft, and science fiction really has a number of subgenres within the genre. Fantasy doesn't really have that so much. Peter Jackson really established he set the bar of what fantasy films could be, but there hasn't been that big a spectrum of fantasy beyond this sort of behemoth of what he made. And I think Warcraft really is an opportunity to just expand out that spectrum of what fantasy can be.
Okay. One final question, if I could just squeeze one in. I didn't ask you about the actors doing the mocap itself. You had Toby Kebbell, who's experienced at it, but you had a lot of people who were doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
We were very lucky in that we had a guy by the name of Terry Notary who's sort of up there with Andy Serkis as far as being a motion coach and able to teach our actors how to move like an orc. And it sounds like an odd thing, but there is a very specific vocabulary of movement as to how orcs moved. So he ran an orc camp for our actors, Daniel Wu, Rob Kaczynski, Clancy Brown, Anna Galvin, and Toby, of course, and kind of really gave them an opportunity to get used to and understand what that vocabulary was. Once they've got that down, that becomes their language, their physical movement language. Then it really gets back to just, working with actors, who their character is, what their motivations are. And as long as they sort of maintain that sort of framework, that vocabulary of how an orc moves, it's really back to human performances.